day 3 of trying to watch this show, and one thing I realized is I was watching an old episode of Bad Movie Beatdown, and Welshie and Matt were watching a movie, and they decided that instead of using the characters' names, because their names do not matter, they assigned them numbers. I don't want to assign these characters numbers, but I realized that these characters are bland, boring. One of them I actually described as having a personality like a bowl of milk, which is something that Welshie actually said. So instead of having actual names, these characters are now going to have nicknames. Renji is going to be Mr. Boring. Chihiro is going to be Eye Patch. Kyosuke is going to be Stalker. The priest is going to be Creeper. And Church Girl is going to be Top Hat because I don't actually know her name. And who's the other one? The one that hangs out with Notebook, who is the manga author, is going to be Hairbow because she has hair bows. And there's another girl whose name I don't know, so I'm just gonna call her IDK because she's the one who's jealous of Hairbow. And Mr. Boring and Eye Patch are talking, and Eye Patch is like, "Oh yeah, I have trauma, and it causes me to not remember anything after 13 hours." And one thing I hate is when shows repeat the same plot point ad nauseum, because we already knew that from the last episode. We knew that Eye Patch had some kind of trauma. I believe the wiki said it was a car crash. I don't remember. She also has a twin who is not really relevant. I think the twin is either Hairbow or IDK. I don't know which of them is actually her twin. One of them is, but I legit cannot be bothered to remember this one. Which one? And she's like, "Okay, so I write stuff down in a diary, and that is how I remember things. But like, how do you remember stuff beforehand?" She says she can remember stuff before the crash, and like, does the diary help her retain memories from like 13 hours before? I don't know how this works. I'm not well versed in amnesia, so maybe this is just how that works. I don't know, and she's too boring for me to even care. Stalker doesn't actually have a role this episode. He's basically just in the room with a bunch of his club buddies, and they're editing the footage. I don't know. Um, and IDK, I believe it's IDK, is jealous of Hairbow because Hairbow and Notebook are hanging out, and she's like, "Oh, you've been skipping school to go hang out with this girl," and she's mad because he's lying, um, about it, and I don't know if it's because she likes him or because he's just lying to her. She doesn't want to hang out with her. I don't know. I really, I don't know is basically the plot of this show. I don't know. I don't care. And iPad, not iPatch. I'm getting confused even with the nicknames. Mr. Boring has a conversation with Creeper, and Creeper's like, "Oh, she comes to the church. Why are you leaving yourself alone with a teenage girl?" Like, I want you to answer this question. Why are you leaving yourself alone with a teenage girl? And more importantly, why are you giving this teenage girl rides home? Like, I think he says at one point in the episode that he gives her rides home. Why are you giving a teenage girl ride home, you weirdo? Like, ew, it's so gross. But other than that, nothing else has really happened. We do get to see Top Hat again briefly, and she says some babble about something. I there is no plot basically, and I am gonna have a very hard time getting this show because there is no actual plot. It's just a bunch of people hanging around and doing stuff, and it wouldn't be so bad if it was an actual romance and any of these characters had chemistry, but they're all just kind of there, and the dialogue is so insipid and so boring that it's just nicknames are the only way I could continue this show because otherwise I legit do not remember the names of 90% of these characters even slightly. I remember Renji and I remember Chihiro because their names are distinctive, and I remember Kyosuke, but I do not remember any of the other characters' names, and that should really tell you something about the quality of the show. Is if I only remember the names of 3 of the characters out of the entire cast, and that's it.